Hey there, and welcome to the daily podcast where wisdom smacks us with kisses or love taps. I'm MichelleSpiva, a wisdom strengthening coach, your host, and practical priestess of wisdom. Mwah. Join us daily to gain wisdom and mental strength as we tackle innovative thinking, address emotional and behavioral life traps, and yes, provide you with some practical how to's to wrap it all up. So settle in or crank up the speed 2x, whatever gets your mental processes firing as we dive in. Stay tuned. Woo, child. We need to talk about hangovers. Uh-huh. Hey, this is Michelle Spiva, your practical priestess of wisdom with today's podcast of Wisdom Smack. Mwah! I want you to join me because today we're going to be talking about how to make sure that you are dealing with and identifying some hindsight hangovers. We'll be looking at what they're for, how to overcome them, what to learn from them, and how to use them to help you to become a better you faster and better. I've got 3 simple little ways. Now, simple doesn't mean easy, but simple little ways to help you do that. So I invite you to stick around and join me on the flip. Yay! All right, thank you so much for showing up. And if you've been listening to our latest podcast, you'll know that we've been kind of looking at how to reset ourselves to do better in our day today as well as in the future. So recently we've talked about how to have a checking your site to make sure that you're not missing out on the messages and the signs that are everywhere around you. And we've talked about how to create a new vision for your life. And so today I'm actually going to be adding a little bit to what we've already talked about. Not giving you too much more added stuff if you're like some of my note squad who likes to take notes and on these podcasts. Because I mean, this one I just wanted to kind of like let you chill out and be able to just listen while you're doing what you're doing. So today I want to just ask you, like I did in the A part, do you have some hindsight hangover? And what's a hindsight hangover? Well, that's that hangover when you get up the next day or some time after and you reflect on what you've done and you wince and you're like, "Oh," and you almost don't even want to think about it because it's just so embarrassing. It's such an indictment. You're like, "How was I so stupid?" If you have that kind of feeling or thought about an action, a memory or something, yeah, you have a little bit of hindsight hangover. So, today, what I want to do is I want to talk to you about how to recognize and get over these hindsight hangovers. And I want to start off by saying why it's so important. Anytime we want to move forward, you have to release the past. And I know that sounds cliche-ish, but baby doll, just know that you cannot have forward momentum if you've got your hand on the wheel behind you and the other one on the wheel in front of you. If anything, you'll be stagnant. So, whatever you need to do to identify those things that are keeping you backwards facing, take care of that. There was a podcast I did maybe last year or year before where I talked about the meaning of January and the god Janus, where we get the word January from. And at the time of this recording, this is being recorded in January, which is also my birthday month. And I'm always amazed at the messages I get during this month. And with the god Janus, if you will, the influence on this month is this god is able to look backward and forward. And the good thing about Janus is that Janus is not stagnant. Janus is not stuck. Janice looks backward and gleans all of the hindsight goods, the goodness of the wisdom of hindsight to help propel the forward vision of what uh, he sees in the forward. And so looking at this idea of hindsight hangover, it's where I want you to be free and clear so that you can take advantage to get a clarity of your sight, where you can start to get a really good start on building the new vision for your life. And I'll just tell you, I am right there with you because determining to do and be all of the things that I have put on my vision, my declaration, my goals, my vision board, and all the things that I said I'm going to be, do, and have for this particular season. I'm taking all of the cobwebs and the stuff that would keep me hindered and putting it out there as well. And as I was going through and asking myself, what would keep us from doing these things that we're talking about? What would keep people from not being able to achieve their goals? What are the saboteurs? And so today is one of those areas. Now, I'm going to go on and say it. Hindsight is good for us. Hindsight is actually there to help us. It's that critical eye that allows you to do a scan and to look at the areas of strength, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. The famous SWOT, strength, weakness, opportunity, and threat. That's what hindsight affords us. But a lot of how we live our lives is when we're confronted with that analysis of what happened in the past, sometimes it's so hard that instead of that critical eye helping us to know how to strategically and analytically, if you will, shore up what we do next, we find that we have all this time where we're shivering from how bad we messed up, and to the point where we persecute ourselves. You know, and I want to just say this. If you are dealing with coming back and having these hindsight hangovers, there is a way out. And I'm going to be, I like to break these down into easy little whatevers. But like I said, we're keeping this light. So when I thought about it, I was like, there are three little things that we can really kind of do to move past this. And the first is to forgive. The second is to focus, and the third is to move forward, So those are my F's, okay? Um, but just know, beloved, that this is good. If you are aware of these hindsight hangovers that you wrestle with, it's okay. Think about it. All of those times when you've realized in hindsight that you were being used or that you were in the wrong or that you were letting your own unresolved issues drive you and possibly drive others away. Or maybe you realize that you were blind to the signs that were there to help you. Or this is a big one. And this one is one that I find that a lot of people, including me, have, I don't have regrets, but can be tripped up by a possible regret. And that is missing opportunities that you prayed for or asked for. Isn't it something when you find yourself saying, I should have, and it was right there for the taking, or how did I miss that? Those are the times that I'm going to especially ask you to not cringe, not call yourself names, not do any of that. And I might be getting ahead of myself for the three F's that I want to talk about here. But what I want you to do is I want you to know that very fact that you're able to see that in hindsight means that whether you believe it or not, that some of Janus, the god of being able to look backward and forward at the same time, might be blessing you. Because instead of shivering from it and blocking the thought, glean the lesson. I like to say, and it's an old saying, eat the fish and leave the bones. What can I take from this memory so that I don't do this again? What can I take from this assessment of my past performance so that I don't miss something again? And again, if you haven't noticed it by now, I'm still talking about sight and vision because these are some of the things that the wisdom smacks are showing us. It's about our ability to see. And a little side note here, sight and vision are greatly influential in our attitude and our aptitude. Mhm. So much so that do you realize, and I heard this from someone, I thought it was great, and I want to paraphrase it, but it was said that you've lived through all of your bad days, 100% of them. You've made it through each one of your bad days. And when you think about it, it's true, right? So if you have hindsights that make you embarrassed or make you want to call yourself unflattering names for having been so gullible, stupid, or whatever it may be, take that energy and understand that that is there for a gift, not for persecution. That is there to help you to glean and understand where mistakes were made, but you don't have to make them anymore. All right. And I purposefully say mistakes were made. Now, this is an aside. Whenever you hear someone say mistakes were made, what they're being able to do is take the sting off of pointing to themselves that I made mistakes and instead just state that, yeah, mistakes were made. But it doesn't necessarily mean that I made them. But in this regard, it's not shirking responsibility as much as it's helping us to divorce ourselves from that person. Because the very fact that this is hindsight means you're no longer that person. And the way I know that is because hindsight really only comes when you're ready to be able to see what it can provide you. And so that's the first thing that you want to do when you recognize that you have a bit of hindsight, hindsight hangover. That is to recognize that at this particular time, you might be mentally, emotionally, physically, socially, whatever you want to call it, ready to receive the data, the information, and the assessment and analysis of previous performance. And that is something that you want to clap about. You really do. Because if you're not ready for it, you'll never see it. Now, I will say this. For those of you who are like, nah, I don't have that. I would caution you from being so readily quick to say, I don't have, the hindsight issue. And instead, look at things like this. Have there been times when you've gotten comments or feedback from others that say things like, you're transferring your stuff onto me, or you are blowing things out of proportion, or everything someone says, you think they're talking about you? That's an area, and we don't have a lot of time to talk about that today because I do have to get into the 3 that I told you about. That's an area where that is either unrecognized, unprocessed, or just flat out ignored ability to do this very thing. Look back in hindsight. So, if those are some of the things that you find that you're encountering, struggling with, or have been told, then you want to deal with it. And the reason why I say that is because there are thoughts that bubble up, and some people, not everybody, but some people, when they get an inkling of what that thought is, they push it back down. I don't want to think about that because they know it's painful. And I never said that hindsight wasn't going to be painful. That's where the hangover part comes from. You feel messed over. Your entire being is sluggish and in pain and overly raw and sensitive to what hindsight is showing you. It's that morning walk of memory shame, you know? And so for some people, they keep pushing it down. And the more you push it down, the more you don't deal with it, the stronger it becomes and it seeps out in ways that you're not aware of. So that's the only thing I want you to be mindful of and why this is so important. Because, sweet pea, if you really want to have what you're saying that you want, these are the dirty little areas that you're going to have to go and muck up all of that crap and get them cleaned out. All those crevices and those hidey holes that you got to, move the furniture away to get to 'em. All the cobwebs that need to be swept up and dealt with, and all of the areas that you might need to, put a new little coat of paint on and spruce up a bit. These are the things that can hold you back that you might not think is a big deal. But then when you don't hit your goal and you say, oh my God, I did it again, and you recognize that you've fallen into some kind of cycle and a pattern, that's when we mess up. On a previous podcast, I talked about how truthiness is something that I am greatly employing because for whatever reason, whenever used to think about my future self, I always thought my future me was drastically more advanced and better than my current me. But I never had any kind of way to get me from where I was to where I wanted to be. And this, dear one, is one of the ways to do it by going and recognizing hindsight for what it is. It is a tool, it is a blessing and a gift to help us. It is not there to make us dread it, to make us persecute ourselves, or to ignore it. So that's one of the big, I said one, that's another one of the big reasons why we want to consider this, And I'll say it many times when it's painful to go and revisit a memory, that means that your defense mechanism is ready to be released because you're ready to handle it. It could be a relationship, it could be a situation, it could be all of these different things. Remember, I said, like feeling used, being in the wrong, this is another one I didn't put on the list, but is one that people cringe from. In hindsight, feeling like you were made a fool of. Everyone knew but you. Or regret. Yeah, it likes to hang out in here too. So those are some of the things that they have to get up and out because they will taint your vision for your new life. They will impede like a cataract your ability to even see a viable future. You'll instead have these skewed futures that you'll never get to because they're so unobtainable because you don't have what it takes to get there because you have to do all this work. Okay. And I don't want to say all this work because it's not that hard. It's not easy, but it's not that hard. Okay. So, anyway, let's talk about how to get over these hindsight. I keep saying that, you guys, these hindsight hangovers. Okay. So, first, forgiveness. Duh. Now, even though I'm going to tell you to forgive yourself and, don't put yourself down by calling names or anything like that. In order to forgive yourself, it means that you want to give yourself a pardon from all the stuff that you did in the past. And then you want to give yourself grace for the stuff that you might miss from here and into the future. But it doesn't mean that you forget it or that you try to ignore it. When you forgive yourself, what you're doing, like I said, is giving yourself a pardon for the past and extending grace for yourself into the future. So that's going to be real important. So how does that look in application? When you have a hindsight, a reflection, a thought, and a lot of times they just bubble up. You don't even know they're coming. When you have one of those and you feel the slightest inkling of disgust, dismay, embarrassment, any of those negative emotions that would cause you to shirk away from the thought without processing it or cause you to condemn yourself. How was I so stupid? Oh my God, I'll never be able to blah, 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 blah. Don't do that. Instead, give yourself the time to love on yourself and give yourself this forgiveness that we talk about. Pardon yourself from the stuff you did. And if you want to, you can make a vow that you will learn to not do that. Okay. That's important because you can't say emphatically that you won't miss the mark again because that's another setup for even more psychological damage. We're not perfect. And sometimes we don't get it on the first try. Everybody doesn't hit a home run when they come to at bat again. So give yourself the grace. All right. All right. So the next one is the focus part. And the focus is not about you having laser eyed focus on being perfect. No, instead, I want you to focus on the silver linings. Again, you've lived through 100% of your bad days. So focus on what has changed you for the better. Focus on what you're now aware and able to see. Focus on the growth that you've experienced. Too many times, we don't give ourselves credit for the magnificence that we are because we're so busy focusing on that one little thing that didn't go right that we don't realize that, oh, I don't do that anymore. Make those mistakes. Oh, I'm not oblivious to that. Oh, I'm smarter now. Oh, I'm wiser now. So when you focus on that, you get more of it. We know the adage. Science as well as metaphysics and everyone else gives us evidence that truly what you focus on, your thoughts and and what you believe, your thoughts equal the things. And so when you focus on looking for what you have learned, looking for the lesson, looking for how you've changed, looking for what worked out for your betterment, you tend to get more of that. And that's to me, whew, that is so important. But I'm going to tell you, focusing is hard. And the reason why it's hard is because focus is a lot of times coupled with habit. And if you have a habit of instead of focusing, you tend to scrutinize and criticize. It's going to take a moment. So I'm not going to pretend like, oh, just because you now know that forgive yourself and then start to focus on the silver linings, on the good stuff, that you're going to be able to immediately do it. Not so, not true. And I would be remiss if I led you to believe that, oh, well, you just do this or just do that. And you guys, if you've been listening to me, you know how I always talk about when somebody uses the word just in front of something, it means it's way harder than what they're saying it's going to be. So I'm not going to do that to you. Focusing is hard and it takes time and you're not going to get it right. And sometimes you're going to have to be reminded. To this day, sometimes I have people who love me enough to say, "Hey, you need to give yourself a break. You're being hypercritical. You can't be perfect on everything." And I'm very grateful for them, and because they help me to yank myself back and get back on the habit building function of focusing on the silver linings. And now, don't be delusional. Like I said, that wasn't in my notes, but I want to make sure that we don't look at stuff and mistake it for something good when it wasn't. You know, if if you have some unhealthy habits, if you have some tendencies where you tend to make poor judgment calls, don't try to turn those into something that's good if they're not. And you may even want to have somebody that you're accountable to if you know that's one of your weak areas. So I do want to put that caveat on. Okay. So far we've talked about forgiveness, forgiving yourself. The next one is focusing on the silver linings, understanding that, yeah, there are, hard times, hard things, but find something that was good out of it. And then the next one is move forward. Now, with moving forward, excuse me, we have to focus on leaving our mess ups in the past where they are. The I can't I now, I didn't wanna spend too much time, but there's this famous saying about the past, the present, and the future. And the reason why the present is called the present is because it is a gift, it is a present for us. And one of the things that I have had to work on annihilating, and it is a continual ongoing work within me, is to quit dragging my mess ups into my present. And I'm going to say it to you guys, quit bringing your mess ups into your present. When you wake up in a brand new day, we want to be grateful because you get a brand new grace, a brand new mercy, a brand new opportunity to be a new you. And things that you messed up in the past or that were messed up that you were involved with don't have the right to be in your present. I'm going to say that one again because that one will teach all day. And that is one that I have to really work on. The stuff from the past does not have a right to be in your present. Likewise, your mess ups do not define who you are today. When you move forward, you have physically, emotionally, and spiritually, however you want to talk, all realms in all dimensions, you are not in the same place you were. So don't you dare go bringing in stuff or dragging it in from the past because it doesn't have a right to be here. And you don't owe it any kind of anything to drag it in. So what if you had, and I don't know why this one just popped up, but so what if you had a DUI in the past? That's not who you are today. Hopefully you've learned from it and you're not that person today, you know? So what if you tended to pick the wrong girl or guy to love in the past? You're not that person today. You're not that mess up today. And sometimes you have to say it even when it doesn't look like it, especially when it doesn't look like it. Now, you guys, like I said before, I really am looking at how wisdom is working with me in these days. And it's more inward focused right now to help us to move forward with what's ahead. And I almost feel like we're moving into a time of complex computing. Instead of everything being linear, I look at what's ahead of us and what we're in now as a lattice work of opportunity. And only those who are able to have these disciplines are going to make it. I heard someone say the other day that when enthusiasm is gone, discipline keeps you going. And I like that because I've talked about that many times. And I'm gonna I'm gonna tell you, like even the way I make my living, I have to use discipline to get my butt in the seat and write and create. I have to use discipline to pull ideas out of thin air and turn them into something entertaining enough for people to be willing and wanting to give me money for the respite, the entertainment that I provide for them. Even with this podcast, coming up with these things, tapping into what I believe is wisdom, and many of you have told me was wisdom to present them. It takes some discipline because it has nothing to do with what you want to do and everything to do with moving forward, being disciplined, and being able to not bring the mess ups from yesterday, yesteryear, or 10 years ago, or whatever with you. So, in my last few moments, I want to just kind of exalt you a little bit. And I want to just love on you a little bit to let you know that the fact that you're listening to this is by no mistake. We have come to a time where everything is serendipity. It is meant for such a time as this. And this is another wink at you from the universe that this is your message. This is for you. This is to allow you to get a container around all of those hindsights that you're dealing with, all of those things that you might have thought were missed opportunities, all of those regrets that you've had, all of those times when you realized maybe too late that this wasn't for you or that you shouldn't be with this person or whatever it is. But understanding that knowledge, that hindsight wisdom is never to persecute you. It's only there to help you. And it helps you by giving you a good, firm footing on the springboard of forgiveness. And remember, when you forgive yourself, thinking of the God Janice, go back in time and pardon yourself from that stuff. And then look forward in time and give yourself grace to move toward your future. And then focus. Like I said, this one, it sounds simple and easy, but it's one of the hardest things that we will do because it is a constant battle to go through and counteract our ingrained habits that for some of us are years in the making that have been so ingrained that it is hard to override them. But yet and still we strive and we thrive. So focus on the silver linings. Fight if you can. Fight for that good thing that happened in the midst of all the bad. And then when you move forward, please move forward. Just do it by faith. You don't need to qualify. You don't need to graduate into anything. Just do it. Don't you dare bring your mess ups from your past. You are no longer that person. When you move forward, you are in a different space completely and totally. Leave them in the past. They don't deserve to be here. Understanding that you are a brand new person, you know? And if you need to, get drastic and do a complete reset. Change everything that reminds you of those mess ups, if you will. All right? So guess what? Yes, boo boo. My time is up. I thank you for yours. And I just want to say, you guys are so amazingly wonderful. Oh, kisses to you. I am so thankful that you support and you listen and you send your love. I receive it. And I'm so honored to be your practical priestess of wisdom, just humbly serving you as best I can. So, you guys, we are just going to continue to go forward. And don't forget that you can send me messages if you'd like for me to cover something, discuss something, look into something. I can't guarantee I can do them all, but I do want you to know that that opportunity is there. So for now, I am going to tell you to go out and have the best wonderful day and make it a wisdom one. And until I see you again, have a lovely one. Bye. And that's going to do it for today's podcast of Wisdom Smack with MichelleSpiva. If you like this podcast, please help us get the word out. Like, comment, subscribe, and even share. And if you really like it, please help us continue to get the word out by considering using this show's link for Amazon. So when you want to go to Amazon and you do all of your general shopping, please use MichelleSpiva.com/AMZ. It's simple as that. It doesn't cost you anything extra, and this show might receive a little bit of commission that will go towards helping to further get these episodes out to you and to others. So thank you so much for listening. This has been MichelleSpiva with Wisdom Smack. Bye.